Another question I wanted to ask you yourself. When you
Please.
were working with Aiken and Waterman,
Yes.
that was that in the studio in Bermondsey? Yeah, is the one.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Did you? How much control did you have over what you sang and the songs you did? Was it completely going into an organisation that told you everything, or did you have some control over it?
Well, I mean, if we didn't really like something, then we wouldn't have sung it. But
Yeah.
I think that at that time, to be fair to Aiken and Waterman, was that they knew best. They knew best. They were writing songs that were written about Mel and Kim. And if I can just talk about the Aiken and Waterman thing, actually, is what was great is when Mel and Kim came into Aiken and Waterman, I promise you, there was nothing going on. They'd done a Dead or Alive remix. They'd had a Hazel Dean, some high energy track that I can't remember.
High energy.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
My God.
Correct answer. Genius.
Thank you, genius.
Nice.
So done. And they'd done this thing called Pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
was...
I don't know what the name
Oh.
Was it?
Musical
Well
You.
done, it was Musical You. So Aiken and Waterman was not known at all. And I remember when Mel and I first went to the studios in
Yeah.
Borough,
Yeah.
and we went in and there was no discs on the wall as such. I think there was one or two here and there that was from Hazel Dean or Dead or Alive or what have you.
2000 and they were all yours.
Yeah, they were all ours in 2000. And I remember we went into the studio and it was this shabby looking studio. It was very quiet. There was no action going on there, but it was a big setup. And I remember Pete Waterman, it's the first time we met him, he was taking us up the stairs and he turned to Mel and myself and he went, "Watch that, kid." And as we looked, there was this big hole. There was this big hole on the floor and you had to step over it. So this was a studio that wasn't functioning, it didn't have money. It was kind of still very new. They'd had a few kind of remixes, but nothing to write home about. And I think what was great about Mel and Kim was Kylie, Jason, the Reynolds girls, they all came later. They came much later when Aiken and Waterman was a factory. Because when Mel and I was there, it wasn't a factory. And that's why I think, if I can say this, even though Kylie has had some great songs written for her by Aiken and Waterman, Mel and Kim was the only one that told stories, which is why he had Showing Out, Get Fresh at the Weekend. Because once Pete met us, he realised that we needed tough music, because we were Hackney girls from East London. We had a bit of an attitude. In fact, we had a lot of an attitude, actually. And the songs were written around us. After that, during my sister's illness, we were kind of sitting back, watching all these new acts come on board, which was Kylie, Jason, the Reynolds girls. And that's for me, that's when it became a factory. And I kind of didn't really like what was coming out there. The whole concept and the dynamics of Aiken and Waterman had changed. They'd found a formula and they'd stuck to it. And that's what they were doing. And I mean, what am I to say? They sold something like 100 million records, so I guess I'd stick to that formula too.
You started it all off.
But Mel and Kim really was the beginning of Mel and Kim.
Steps finished it.
That's right.
You started.
Literally. But, so I'm very proud of that time, because we did come in when it was new, when it was fresh, when they were hungry and they desperately wanted to hear. So I think if you listen to the Mel and Kim stuff, if you want, and you compare it to the rest that came after it, it's more watered down what came after. Before, it had more balls, if I can say that. It had more of a personality, and then after the factory, as they called it, they called the album the Hit Factory. I mean, it said it all.
There was one thing I'm sure Kevin and Derek, because I know we know Stock and Aiken personally through my sister and through friends, because they used to do hotel gigs with us years ago.
Okay, don't tell me what I said.
Yeah, but the one thing that disturbs me, it's only this is something I think all musicians and writers, that Waterman, when I see him on television, talks about how when he wrote this and when he wrote that, and in the industry we know he can't play the piano, he doesn't write anything.
That's right.
But so nobody ever questions him like.
But he's integral. He's integral.
Oh yeah, I mean,
to
from a
the whole
business
thing.
point of view, he put the money up and he was very much ideas man. But
Yes,
when it
big
comes to a
ideas man.
songwriting thing, which I really feel strongly about, if it said Lennon, McCartney and George Martin, it would have been sort of unfair on the real writers, who were the two guys who wrote the songs.
Yes.
So it's
I
just
know
someone.
what you mean.
It's a-
Well,
it's a
this is
sort-
why they fell out as
Yes,
well,
yeah.
you know, because Mike Stock, for me, Mike Stock out of Aiken and Waterman is the
Yeah, he's the
songwriter.
writer. Yeah.
He's the writer to
Yeah.
the max. He is the writer. And then you got Matt that will come in and give the odd idea here and there.
His sister had she passed away through similar as your sister, didn't she? Was it Catherine?
Catherine Stock. Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I know that Pete lost his son
Yeah.
not too long ago,
Yeah.
but I had no idea. But
It's
you know,
those things going back to song, 'cause it's to do with songwriting. Where because I remember in America they brought a rule out during the time of Al Jolson, because Al Jolson didn't write, and he claimed all these songs, and he had some guy in the back room paying £20 a week to write the songs, and Al Jolson would come out and say, "This is a song I've just written," and it went to court in America eventually, and they changed the law that nobody was allowed to put their name to a song
yes,
if they didn't actually write it.
yes.
So it's not the only one. There's hundreds and hundreds. Because I remember
Yes,
in the
yes.
70s, every B-side
Yes.
was written by the manager or the producer.
That's right.
Because it made as much money as the A side.
But that goes on now anyway.
Yeah.
There are loads of songwriting teams where one particular individual isn't even in the studio most of the time, but still gets a credit.
Yeah, it's just one of those
And
things.
still,
It's
you
a,
still have to. It's political.
it's almost
you
like
know.
a line wire problem
Happens to me all
for
the time.
songwriters
No,
as well.
It still goes on.
And if I can just get back to Pete and his function, actually, because we know that the guys fell out and it all went horribly wrong and they started to sue each other, and it was a really sad way for something that was so great to end. Pete can't write, but Pete is the ideas man. He is completely integral to the whole idea thing. He tunes into an artist. And like when he met Mel and Kim, you know, they wrote a track for us called Everybody's Got a System. It's on the Mel and Kim album that I bought in. And it's a very soft R&B track, because they were thinking, two black chicks from East London, we'll take them the princess route, and we'll do an R&B track with them. And then they took us down the pub and we all called Blimey Mate as your father and all like this. And they were just, you know, and they were just like, this song's too soft for them. And it was Pete. It was Pete, because Mike and Matt were quite happy to go back to the studio, mix the track and put it out there.
Yeah.
But Pete went back and said, scrap the track. We need something tough for these girls.
Yeah.
You see, this is where...
Right, so
and Pete was the one that came in and said, great title, Sam, you're number one. Mike, write it. So Pete, really, you know, he really does tune in to the artist. No, he can't put pen to paper. And, you know, we've had some wonderful times where he's walked in the studio when we're doing a mix and he's pressed a button and everything stopped, you know. We've had some lovely moments like that, you know. But to be honest with you, without Pete, there would never have been a Mike and there would never have been a man. They would have been writing and writing and writing, but it wouldn't have seen the light of day, because Pete is the one that tunes in to an artist and goes, okay, I see what you're about. This is what we should do for them. And he did the same with Kylie, with Jason.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
And the whole thing went on, I promise you. And I know he gets a hard time because, like, he can't write, but without him, there would not have been. And without Mike and Matt, he wouldn't have found anyone to execute his ideas. So that's why it was so sad when they fell out, you know. But where there's a hit, there's always a rip.